Welcome to Know Your Balls podcast, a podcast about everything sports presented by Tonique Media. I'm Avi Carr-Gloth. Along with me, as always, my good friend Robbie Williams. Robbie, good to see you, my man. Another fun week of sports.
Yeah, it's been a very interesting week, very busy week in sports. Good to be here. Good to see you, man.
Good to see you too. And
I guess I'm not really anywhere. I'm just in my own house. I don't know. People just say that.
Yeah, but we're still, you can still see me, I guess. I don't know. But
I feel like I'm going somewhere, honestly.
Yeah, I feel like I'm
more
dressing
than usual.
Up. Yeah, I have to wear clothes and look presentable and that kind of stuff. That's always fun.
I shower once a week just for the show.
That's fantastic, Robbie. I'm sure the audience loves to hear that. A quick thank you to TellABQ. Go check them out. Go listen to them. Big thank you to them. We got a loaded schedule today. Cam Newton went viral recently. He had a skills or quarterback camp or football camp where an interaction with a kid went viral. Robbie, I guess you have a lot to say about that. We'll talk about that. The NBA All-Star selections happened recently. Some injury replacements. We'll get to that. Russel Wilson has been in the headlines recently. Is there a trade on the horizon? We have a resident Seattle fan, Jacob Stevenson, one of our producers. He'll be jumping in on that one. Isaiah Wilson, offensive lineman for the Tennessee Titans. He was a first-round draft pick. There was a whole situation with him and something that he tweeted, and there's a whole situation with him that we'll get to. Obviously, one of the biggest stories in news in general, the Tiger Woods car crash. We'll talk about that briefly. Also, another Seattle topic that we'll get Jacob's thoughts on. Kevin Mather, I believe is how you pronounce his last name. The president of the Seattle Mariners got into some hot water and lost his job over some leaked comments. There's also a really wild ending between the Washington Wizards and the Denver Nuggets that I got some thoughts on. And then, of course, the great Albert Pujols. Is he retiring? Is he not? There, initially it looked like he is going to retire. Maybe there's a little bit of pushback that he won't. We'll see. But regardless, we'll get to all of that. So, Robbie, we have a lot, and I hope you know your balls today because we have a lot. We got a lot of them to talk about. And obviously, we got Cam Newton and his viral moment with the camper at his camp. What was the first thing that you thought of and you saw when you saw that situation? Kind of give everyone a breakdown for those who didn't see it.
I just thought it was really funny that he started chirping back at the kid. This is a kid. I think they're all teenagers. They might be 13, 14 at the most. I don't think they were even very old. And, it's his camp. And I don't know what he was doing. He was walking around and, he walks by and they start telling him, I think they started yelling at him saying he's a free agent. He's like, you're a free agent. You're a free agent. He said, I'm rich.
Mm.
I'm rich. And I'm like, are you really chirping back at a 13-year-old right now? He got into an argument with him, standing there for, 30, 40 seconds or so, I think the video is. And I just thought that was hilarious. I feel like as a professional athlete, you should say one thing and just continue on your business, whatever you're doing at this camp, because it's just some kid obviously trying to get a reaction out of you. He's a kid. He might not even really believe what he's saying. He's just saying it to impress his friends, to make a joke, to get a reaction out of you, and you're feeding right into it. And I think it, it says a lot about, I don't know if I don't think he likes how last season went. And I think that kid got under his skin there, and it was kind of funny to watch, a kid get under Cam Newton's skin because, Cam Newton's been such a great player for quite a while, and he just kind of fell off last year.
I'm impressed and kind of bewildered of how much the story had legs. That's a journalism term. It just stayed in the news cycle for longer than I anticipated. I think there was that initial video between Newton and the camper where the camper was talking to him. And then there was another video that came out within 24 hours of Cam Newton, 2 minutes, standing there and talking with him about I guess how you should act and how you should carry yourself and that kind of stuff. And
I didn't see that.
I think so. I know the kid, I think he apologized and that there was like a lot to learn from it. I know there's a lot of people writing opinion pieces on like how this is important and stuff like that. But I'm like, I think there's a lot more to it than just like the camper and the quarterback. Like I think there's a lot of underlying pieces to it. I guess I don't know. I get that's the only reason I
didn't
think of
expect it to go that deep. Like I just left it at that video. I didn't do any more research on it. I just saw this and I was like, huh, it's funny, like and just thought it was stupid, like and kind of moved on. He sat there for 2 minutes and had like a serious talk. Made the kid apologize.
No. I don't. He didn't make the kid apologize.
Oh, okay.
Did it himself.
Oh, the kid. Oh, okay.
He didn't say apologize to me right now. Like no, he didn't. That was not how it went. Like
it wasn't like South Park.
Yeah.
Jesse Jackson. No. Randy Martin.
No, not like South Park. No. But yeah, I think there was a lot to it. He like explained like what he did and was kind of wrong, and I know I guess the kid agreed. So this was my phone's going off. A fun story, I guess. Like fun in the sense of like, if you usually these kind of things just kind of don't happen, but if there's something people take of this and learn from it, then yay sports. So that was an interesting story. But I'd say maybe the biggest story in terms of like I guess learning was about fans and stuff like that, was more with the NBA All-Star selections, and you learn a lot about how fans take in their players. Obviously, the All-Star rosters, they were just announced. The starters and the reserves. Obviously, the starters in the Western Conference specifically, there was a lot of pushback because Luka Doncic is going to be starting for the West instead of Damian Lillard. And the only reason that's the case is because Damian Lillard didn't get as many fan votes as Doncic. I personally think that Lillard should be starting. But I'll run down quickly the All-Star teams in the West. LeBron is the captain, obviously. Steph Curry, Luka Doncic, Nikola Jokic, and Kawhi Leonard. And then the reserves: Anthony Davis, Paul George, Rudy Gobert, Lillard, Donovan Mitchell, Chris Paul, Zion Williamson. And with Anthony Davis injured, Devin Booker is going to be his injury replacement. And then in the Eastern Conference, Kevin Durant is the captain. And then the starters: Giannis Antetokounmpo, Bradley Beal, Joel Embiid, and Kyrie Irving. The reserves: Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, James Harden, Zach LaVine, Julius Randle, who's having a great season on the Knicks, Ben Simmons, Nikola Vucevic, and with Kevin Durant being out, Domantas Sabonis on the Pacers. He's an injury replacement, and Jason Tatum's going to start now. What are your initial thoughts?
It's a lot at once.
Yeah.
I'm happy to see Devin Booker in the All-Star game. It comes at the expense of Anthony Davis, but it's still. I always like watching Devin Booker. I think he's a really talented player.
I'm also glad. Like there was that was the biggest pushback. Like that Devin Booker didn't get it, and yet Phoenix had has one of the 5 best records in the NBA, and he's maybe their best player. I mean, I know Chris Paul's having a great year, but Booker's balling, man. I mean, he's legit.
He's a great player. You just don't hear enough about, I think. But as far as Damian Lillard too, I think that's kind of crazy that I get that like the fans choose the All-Stars, but like I don't think they should choose the captain or like the starting order or anything.
Well, it's not entirely the fans. I know it's like the fans, the media, and the players vote on the starters, and I believe it's the coaches who pick the reserves. Mm-hmm. And obviously they can't vote for their own players. But I mean, I think this shows a lot about marketability. Like Lillard, I think was like he would have been a starter had it just been the media and the players. it was purely the only vote where Doncic did better than Lillard was the fans, and that pushed him there. I understand. I think it is a good system in terms of picking captains. Like, I do think the two most popular players in both conferences, I think that's a good system. But it definitely calls into question something. I mean, I know the NBA is quick to change things that they don't like. So maybe this is one of those things. Maybe they changed it, like they completely flipped their All-Star format last year. The fourth, he was like playing to a certain number of games. So, and then of course there's like the whole debate of whether the All-Star game should even be happening. But as you know, if it's happening, then I guess we'll talk about it. One thing I'm interested to see also is Kevin Durant's not going to be playing, and that's why Sabonis is an Eastern Conference All-Star. But he's the captain of a team, right? Like, the captains pick teams, but he's not actually going to be playing. So, I mean, the NBA, this is a fairly new format. I'm very interested to see how it's going to go with Kevin Durant picking a team that he's not going to play with.
Yeah, that's just weird. It's just weird. Everything about it's weird. Like, I don't know what else to say about it. It's so confusing. I don't remember the All-Star game, being this odd. Like,
I mean, there's a lot of factors that are new this year. Obviously, with how the world is right now, but I mean, the fact this is like their top fan engagement event of the season, All-Star break, and I mean, these are the best of the best. So I mean, I like the creativity that's happened over the last couple of years, but I'm very interested to see how this weekend operates.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting for sure.
All right, so the NBA All-Star Game, it's coming up in early March. But even though the NBA is maybe the most popular sport going on right now, obviously we still have hockey, the NFL is still making headlines. That's the thing about the NFL. Like, even when they're not playing, they're still making headlines. And one of the most interesting headlines of them all is this stuff going on with Russell Wilson, that he has not requested a trade from the Seahawks, but The Athletic released a story of what's been going on, how he's definitely had some frustration with how the team has run, and there are 4 teams that he would consider being traded for or traded to, rather, if a trade was imminent: the Chicago Bears, the Dallas Cowboys, the New Orleans Saints, and the Las Vegas Raiders. And for more on this, we have a Washington native and a Seattle fan in our midst right here, Robbie. Our man, Jacob Stevenson, who's Seattle through and through. And Jacob, I mean, you've had Russell Wilson on your squad for the last while. He's helped you. Was there when he won the Super Bowl. I mean, I can imagine it's kind of startling to see Russell Wilson and trade in the same sentence.
Like a couple of weeks ago, there was this Russell Wilson the day after the Super Bowl. He went on the Dan Patrick show and was talking about how, he just wants to get better and he wants the offensive line to improve, and how just pretty much tired of losing. And there's talks about Russell being traded and what's wrong with the Seahawks, what's wrong with him. And I wasn't really too worried about it because the contract's too big. And I'm just kind of thinking there's no way they're going to trade him. And then the story comes out the other day about just kind of like what's causing the rift, and just kind of how the last couple of years has kind of led to this point. And I still don't think he's going to get traded because the contract's too big, and the Seahawks are going to want to stay competitive. And unless they can get a quarterback back or a bunch of picks and to release some cap relief, I don't think he's going to go anywhere. But just the talk about it is just kind of stressing people out.
I can imagine. I mean, it's not like a Detroit Lions situation where they could get a quarterback back in a trade. I mean, Seattle is also like one of the most consistent franchises in recent memory, and so I mean, Russell Wilson's been a major part of that. It would be shocking to see him in a different uniform, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Russell Wilson's one of my favorite players, and the Seahawks are one of my favorites. As a Lions fan, you have to find other teams to root for as the season goes on, and the Seahawks are definitely one of those teams. It would be, I would be really sad to see him leave the Seahawks, but if he went to New Orleans, I would also be really happy because I'm a big New Orleans Saints fan as well. Because, yeah, that would be crazy to see him leave Seattle.
If the Seahawks do trade him, I would like him to go to the AFC so the Seahawks don't have to play him. I think that if they do trade him, they're going to get a big price back and like a big. They're going to have to get a lot back because they're not going to make the deal if you don't. And Russell Wilson's such a great player, but they're going to want to be competitive. You know, you still have Jamal Adams on your roster, you still got Bobby Wagner, you still got Tyler Lockett, you still got DK Metcalf. Like, there's still some dudes, but it's just, I don't know. I kind of always assumed Russell Wilson's going to play the rest of his career in Seattle and he's going to live in Seattle the rest of his life. But just I still don't think he's going to go anywhere, but just having to talk about it is just kind of surreal.
Yeah, I think I heard he wants a little bit more power as far as deciding like personnel choices and stuff like that. So I think it's more of like I could leave kind of thing versus him actually wanting to leave,
like
or anybody
leverage.
wanting to get rid. Yeah, let's just leverage, exactly.
And so the last couple of years, the Seahawks fans, everybody's been yelling at the Seahawks to let Russ cook. Their offensive strategy was run the ball, throw deep, and then they'd get down a hole, and then they would just open up the playbook, and then Russell would bail them out and come back, and they probably would win. Not what happened all the time. This year, they come out and they spread you out. They're throwing it all over the place, and Russell Wilson was historically great the first 8 games. Second half of the season, you know, other teams kind of figure out what the Seahawks wanted to do. The Seahawks wanted to drop back, throw it deep, and a little bit of playing better defenses in the last 9 games. They played the Rams 3 times. Rams are the best defense in the leagues. But the offensive line, and since Russell Wilson's been in Seattle, the pass blocking's just been terrible, especially the last few years. The Seahawks don't really spend money there. They haven't drafted well there. And I think 75 to 80% of the problem the Seahawks fell apart was mixture of injuries because the offensive line was banged up. Mixture of just, you know, the scheme being figured out because, you know, the Seahawks didn't really adjust well. And, yeah, Russell had some games where he didn't play that great, but I thought kind of the majority of it was scheme related and just the offensive line not playing well against good defenses. But the Athletics talked about in that article how there were some disagreements how to attack the defense after the Arizona game. And I think he just kind of wants more of a voice and more of like, this is my team. I kind of want to make decisions. Like I'm one of the best players in the NFL. Just like, let me do my thing. And the Seahawks really haven't let him necessarily in the past compared to like Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, like those guys.
I definitely think, I mean, I'm not a Seahawks fan. I don't really follow them too closely. I mean, obviously I watch the playoffs, but I think he deserves it. I mean, he was right there in the MVP conversation. If anything, the front runner for the first, you know, almost half of this past season. And then it kind of broke down. It's interesting you mentioned, Jacob, the pass blocking. I remember even back when Marshawn Lynch was running for 1,300 yards a year, and you know they were playing well. They had a great run game. Even then, they had a reputation of a subpar pass blocking line. That Russell Wilson is still one of the most pressured quarterbacks in the NFL, and that he's one of the most hit and sacked quarterbacks in the NFL. So to me, that seems like the number one priority. And if I was Russell Wilson, that's what I'd be asking for.
Yeah, he does hang on to the ball a little bit too long and trying to make a little bit of something, like a little bit of magic. But Seahawks, if a deep throated DK Metcalf wasn't there, it seems like at times they didn't really know what they were doing, and so like they didn't really have like another plan on offense. And for how much the Seahawks just want to throw it deep, I think part of the reason he did hang on to the ball too long was because deep routes not there to. You know, first option's DK, second option's Tyler Lockett, and then it's like, okay, there's a guy in the backfield and he's got to run around. So I think kind of that was part of it too. And the Shane Waldron, the new offensive coordinators from the Rams, and another thing that Seahawks fans were yelling at them about is the lack of creativity as well, and just lack of motion. And they would run motion, but it wasn't to like they didn't use it like to attack. They would just use it just to kind of have a guy run around, and hopefully the added creativity, using the Rams plays. The Rams use a ton of motion. They line up in shotgun, to line up under the center, and just do a bunch of different things. So hopefully the creativity is going to help the Seahawks, help Wilson, especially when you have a bad offensive line.
Yeah, so I agree with the notion that he'll be back next season. I think it would be very difficult to see him in another jersey, at least just for next season. So you can rest easy, Jacob. I feel like you know, it might be weird to talk about, but I have a feeling he'll be back with the Seahawks next year and for a long time to come. So thank you, Jacob. We will see you again in a couple of other topics. We got another Seattle story coming up. Next, though, another interesting NFL story that I don't really see that often. I don't think anyone sees that often. Is the story of Isaiah Wilson. Isaiah Wilson, he was an offensive lineman, went to Georgia, had a great college career. He was a 29th overall pick by the Titans. So, I mean, first round lineman, and he was considered really good player. And then he started one game all season, and he did not play a lot. He was on the COVID list a couple times. He was suspended by the team at least once. He was arrested for DUI, and then what got everyone talking. He tweeted out, and it has since been deleted, of course. But screenshots last forever, Robbie, as we know. I'm done with football as a Titan. No further comments. What are your thoughts on this, Robbie? Because I would be freaking out. I would be freaking out if I was a Titans fan.
Yeah, I mean, it's it sounds like that guy's got some serious problems. That no matter what you do, I mean, your draft pick's already been wasted. If this guy's acting like that all the time, reminds me of Dwayne Haskins kind of doing a similar thing on the Redskins.
Well, at least he played in more than one game.
Yeah, right.
Was there? At least he played in more than one season.
Yeah, so, I mean, you get a little bit more bang for your buck, but
we almost played the same amount for the Titans as Isaiah Wilson. For real.
Yeah, no, seriously. That's I don't know what else to say about it besides that guy is just he's messed up. He screwed up his own life. More than he screwed up the Titans organization. They'll get another draft pick. They'll come back around. That's all you can do at this point. Do you really want to try and fix this? Help this guy get out of this hole if he's not, and bring him back onto the team. I don't know. That just doesn't seem like a good idea to me.
Pretend you're an NFL GM for a sec, Robbie, and this guy gets released because it looks like it might happen. And would you take a flyer on him, as a free agent? He was a first-round draft pick for a reason.
If he didn't want a lot of money, if you could get a really good deal on him, and he was, and you would have to, agree to something to, say, I'm going to straighten out here, more so than other players on the team are going to be doing stuff like that. That's your first. Before you even try to start trading or training him to be on your team, you got to get his head straight and make him a team player and a decent human being. Who's not gonna just do whatever he wants regardless of what he's supposed to be doing.
This is giving me a lot of Johnny Manziel vibes. Let me tell you that. Making sure football is the number one priority. A quick thank you again to TellABQ. Want to take a quick sec to thank them. Shout out to Albuquerque, New Mexico. Our producer AJ tells us it's a magical city. So thank you to TellABQ. Biggest news in sports, maybe biggest news in the country for a small amount of time. Tiger Woods getting in a single car crash. It looks like he's alive, which is a great thing. He reportedly was not under the influence of alcohol when the crash happened. The public relations statements that have been coming out have been encouraging. I'd say that he's had some open fractures reportedly, that there were bones broken more than to two pieces, with breaks in his skin, upper and lower portions in his of the tibia and fibula of his right leg. I know he had. I'm not a big golf fan, but I know that earlier in his career he had some back issues.
He's had 5 back surgeries, and he just got off of one a month or a couple months ago or something, because Jim Nance from CBS just did an interview with him and was asking him if he was going to play in the Masters, and he didn't know for sure yet. So he was still in or towards the end of like the recovery stage of his last back surgery.
Yeah, and I like even me as a non-golf fan knows that Tiger Woods has had a lot of back surgeries recently. Obviously he's not going to be playing golf for a while, because of this. Obviously your first thoughts are, is he going to make it? And thank God if it looks like he will, but I don't see a situation where he'll ever play again.
Yeah, depends on how, his rehabilitation goes. I'll tell you what, like I actually saw this happen like the second it broke. I was like watching the news, eating lunch, and they like broke in, and they're like, Tiger Woods got in a crash. And they were, the helicopters like over the crash site. And I was like looking at the car, and his car rolled up a hill. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's how fast he was going.
That's a lot of momentum.
Well, what they were saying was that this road that he was coming down on it has a very steep grade, and it's very easy to pick up speed without realizing it. And it's also, there's a curve there. There's actually runaway truck ramps on the road for people going out of, getting out of control. And they interviewed people who walked up to the crash site later on. They said, yeah, no, it doesn't happen all the time, but it definitely is like you could easily crash on it if you just weren't paying attention. You could be sober and do that.
So someone should get on that. Someone should get on that then. I feel like that'll get fixed sooner rather than later now with this story, right? I'd hope.
Well, you'd have to completely change the landscape to fix it. It's just the nature of like that hilly sort of area. But
interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's like, if you'd have to see the videos where they, I don't know if they actually put them up there, like a clip or something. I just watched them live, like cutting into like the local Los Angeles like news station for CBS. And he had himself positioned so you could like see the road coming down behind him. There's like no skid marks except for right where he goes off of the road. He blew through a sign. He went over a median.
Jeez.
And then rolled up a hill. And one of the guys was saying that they used it, when I was watching it, that they used the jaws of life to get him out. And then they talked to the sheriff, and he didn't want to say they used the jaws of life to get him out, but you could overhear the guy in the helicopter while they're interviewing the sheriff saying that they cut him out of the windshield, because the windshield of the car was like completely gone. And so they had to like cut him out of the car and get him out of there. If you saw the SUV, it looked bad. So I was very happy to hear that, he only broke his legs. It's kind of his only injuries there. It doesn't sound like he really messed up his back again or, did any serious injuries there. They're just talking about his legs. So I don't know. I think his name is Tiger. And because of that, like he is Tiger. And I think he, if anybody's gonna, rehabilitate, I don't know if he's gonna come back as good as he was, but like I could see him competing again.
If anyone could do it, I guess it's an all-time great like him. I don't know much about the rehabilitating of an athlete or golf for that matter, but I maybe, but obviously the first thing is making sure he's good to like function and live. this story, real quick before we move on, this story made me realize, and it reminded me how big he is, like in terms of like culture, not just sports, but like in terms of like the American lexicon, of words and of phrases, like, like Tigers, like fist pump or whatever, like the, shooting up his fist in
Yeah, the whole
celebration.
Nike ad campaign.
Yeah. There are obviously this, this would never, I hope this would never ever happen to anyone ever. It, but there are only so many people that if this happened to them, the whole country would stop and be like, oh my God. And Tiger Woods is one of those people. Like they're like, like
Yeah, people
everyone
who don't watch golf, play golf, care about golf at all know who Tiger Woods is.
Yeah. So it's the same,
Crazy.
it's the same thing with Kobe Bryant, obviously, when his tragedy happened. There are only so many athletes and people in sports that can make the whole world like stop and like think about the well-being of this person and like pray for the well-being of this person. Not to say like athletes who are less famous don't deserve that as well, but with the name recognition that Tiger has, it's like it's a global thing. Like everyone around the world, that's a name that Tiger Woods. So I hope that gets better.
I sat there and watched it for 3 hours after it came on the TV. It was like until they came out and said like like an official statement. He's in the hospital. That so this happened. Blah, blah, blah. I mean, you didn't know when I first turned it on. I didn't know what happened. They just said Tiger Woods got in a car accident. I was like,
oh,
I was glued to the TV for sure.
You and millions of others. Yeah, neither have I. Unless you count Happy Gilmore, of course.
Yeah.
But I hope Tiger gets well soon, and we're all thinking of him. Moving on to a story in baseball, something that got a lot of attention in the last week or so. The Seattle Mariners president, Kevin Mather, made comments that were leaked to the public recently, where he was at some kind of club where he was making comments about players' performance and their ability to speak English, and how he didn't want to pay interpreters or translators, and obviously talking about the manipulation of service time of younger players from the minors, hold them down for another year. So, the service time won't count, and then they don't have to pay them a big contract till later. All of that was on full display, and it was pretty telling. And again, we go back to the Seattle well with Jacob, and Jacob, Seattle Mariner fans have had a rough go, to say the least, historically. This is almost unsurprising, would you say?
Yeah, the Mariners, I believe, have the longest playoff drought in major professional sports. They haven't made the playoffs since 2001. And then Kevin Mather, the Mariners president, he's been with the organization since 1996. Was on a Zoom meeting with the Bellevue Rotary Club and pretty much talked trash about every important person in the organization for about 45 minutes. He mentioned star pitcher Marco Gonzalez, called him boring. He called Kyle Seager, Mariners third baseman, who's been an all-star, has been with the team since 2011, called him overpaid, and he said that this is going to be his last year in Seattle, which led to his wife, Julie, good tweet and ask if they should put their house up for sale. He talked he said a lot of detail about just kind of what's going on in the club that you shouldn't say. But the two biggest things that cut the most slack were he admitted that Kelenic, Mariners' top 5 prospect in baseball, would be up right now, but they're pretty much manipulating the service time, and that he won't be up until late April, and that he was offered an extension, 6-year deal, similar to Evan White, another high prospect, and if he would have accepted it, would have been on the big leagues last year, but he didn't, so he's in the minors. And then he criticized another Mariners top prospect, another top 10 prospect in baseball, Julio Rodriguez's English speaking ability, and then Hisashi Okuma's English speaking ability. He's another Mariners former All-Star, pitcher who's now working for the organization, and he was complaining that he had to hire and pay for a translator for Iwakuma. So yeah, it's just a lot of just like really bad stuff, and he resigned, and the Mariners have to do damage control now, but it's just bad all the way around.
It sounds like he wanted to get fired.
Yeah. I mean, but just imagine, like, if those comments were said like 25 years ago, or not even 25 years ago, like there would be no way of knowing that. Like, we don't have the technology, or they didn't have the technology today. Like, this was an unfiltered look into like the front office view, the sadistic view of like a penny pinching front office guy who's been in a comfy position with his organization for what, he's 1996, so that's literally like what, 25 years. So I mean, like, it's not like this guy is like new to the game. It's like mouthing off. This guy was with the Mariners for a quarter of a century, and here he is. Like, that is like as almost as bad as it can get in terms of a PR standpoint for your organization. So yeah, I mean, Mariners. I mean, I know the Mariners. I don't know much about the Mariners as a fan base. I just know that they've had a long drought. I know that they were like the best team in baseball in 2001, and then they weren't, and then they haven't been in the playoffs since then. Like, they lost. They had like Randy Johnson on their team. They had Ichiro. They had A-Rod. They had all these like generational talents, and I don't know, like, I don't even know the last time they won the World Series, like, decades ago.
They never won the World Series. Never. In 2002 and 2004, they won 90 plus games, didn't make the playoffs. And I believe in 2002, it was the year that the A's Moneyball and the A's were really good. And with the wild card the way it is now, they would have made the playoffs. They just didn't get in because there's only 4 teams, I believe, that made it. But the Mariners in the early 2000s spent a bunch of money. Their team wasn't very good, and they signed Richie Sexton, they signed Adrian Beltre. Adrian Beltre was good, but they sent a bunch of money to guys, had no farm system, and it didn't work. So they got really bad. And they hired Jackson Renzick, and he tried to rebuild, didn't really work out. The fan base got mad, so he signed Robinson Cano and Nelson Cruz a bunch of money. Didn't really work out. Jerry Dipoto comes, and the Mariners have been good, but they haven't been good enough to make it. They won high 80s a couple times. One year with Sorensic, I believe that was 2014. They missed out the playoffs on the last day. 2018, they won 90 games, didn't make it. 2016, they were eliminated with 3 games left, I believe. It was the final weekend. And then with the Mariners pretty much being old, Nelson Cruz in a big contract now, they decided to rebuild. And 2022, I think, is going to be the year where they like had a shot. They have a lot of cap space, and I expect them to win 75 to 80 games this year, but it's been just a couple of general managers spending a bunch of money when they shouldn't have, trying to rebuild and the process not being good, and just kind of anything you can do to make a bad team. But yeah, this is the first general manager where I've kind of felt good about, but yeah, the Mariners have not been a greatly ran organization, and as with Mather's comments, you can see.
Yeah.
I mean, that's I can imagine as a Mariners fan looking at that headline on your phone, just like, damn, like, come on, guys, we can do better than this.
The way I found out, I saw it on Twitter, and I had to read the whole comments a couple times, and I'm like, there's no way. Like, and then I saw like somebody took like a notes of like the video on YouTube, and I'm reading the stuff. I'm like, that's harsh. Like, that's rude. Like, why are you going to say that about his English speaking? Like, why are you going to complain about having to hire a translator? Like, that's like, come on. And then I like read that he's like manipulated. He like admitted to manipulate killing the service time. I'm like, oh, like, why did he say that? Like, that's dumb. Like, why is he publicly saying that? And then I kind of like let it go. I'm like, okay, whatever. And then I saw like more people were talking about it. And like, oh, like this is a big story. And then I read the comments again, and I'm like, oh, this is bad. He's going to get fired for this.
Yep, it was just like Robbie said. It was like as if he was trying to get fired. All the things that you could say to get fired were in that compact little amount of time. So hey, I'm a fan of underdogs. So Seattle Mariners are definitely one. Good luck to the Mariners going forward, and hopefully you have a competent baseball team and front office who doesn't try to get fired. So thank you, Jacob. I'm glad we have a resident Seattle fan to talk about the big issues facing the Pacific Northwest and their sports teams. Speaking of the West, rough transition there, but the Washington Wizards and the Denver Nuggets played a game recently, and it's not those aren't two, I would say, of the glamour franchises in the NBA. They're not teams that are necessarily going to get national headlines unless, you're Denver and you're making that run of the Western Conference Finals last year. But Robbie, did you see the end of that game? Did you see what happened at the end of this game?
I did not.
So it was a 2-point game, right? I'll break it down for the people who haven't seen it. It was a 2-point game. Washington was, I think this was like 3 days ago or 3 days ago. Wizards were up 2 seconds to go. There's a fast break opportunity for Denver, and it's a 4-on-1 fast break. 4-on-1. There's only one guy back for Washington, and Denver has 4 guys. Jamal Murray, their point guard, he has the ball on the left side. 3 guys on the right. 3 players on the right for the Nuggets, and they all just run to the 3-point line. Like it's a fast break. You go to the basket. You go and that's what you should do. They instead
I just saw the video. That's
the 3-point line. Like, what are you doing? And it ends up in a bad pass at the feet of one of their players who forces up a 3 at the buzzer. Wasn't particularly close. He missed it, and Denver loses. Washington, they've been on a roll recently, but Denver is a much better team than that. And they 4-on-1 fast break. Anybody who sees this video would just be like outraged. I'm not a Nuggets fan. I'm outraged on how this happened.
I have a weird story as to why I'm not outraged. I understand brain farts happen. I know better than most people. And when I was playing basketball as a kid, my coach had troubles. I'm not kidding. My coach had trouble getting me go straight to the basket, right? So one time I got the ball on a fast break, and nobody was in front of me. And he yelled. I was right next to the bench, and he yelled at me and said, "Take it." And I said, "Okay." And I stopped, and I shot a 3, and I happened to make it, and it worked out. But I get why you don't understand what you're supposed to. You just brain fart. You just mess up.
These are NBA players.
They all went to do the same thing. Everybody thought the other guy was going to go to the basket, and they're trying to fill the holes, and then nobody went to the basket, and it's just stupid.
This is like the perfect encapsulation of the modern NBA. Nobody cares about easy shots inside. Everyone's shooting 3s. Like 3-pointers are like the craze in the NBA today. Everyone is a shooter. It's not as important to be tall anymore as it is to be skilled. And I mean, all 3 guys.
They all wanted to win. They didn't want the tie.
But also
win or nothing.
But also Jamal Murray, the guy with the ball, he is at fault too. He stopped as a 3-point line. He stopped. He himself stopped. So really, it was all 4 guys at the 3-point line. It was a 4-on-1 fast break, and they got nothing, and they lose. You hit that layup, you're tied. Overtime is better than a loss.
Yeah, no, seriously. They went for it all and came up short. I agree with you. They all should have went to the basket. I'm a big believer in that too, but I get it. I bet they don't make that mistake again. But they never forget that.
Yeah, I can only imagine what the locker room was like post game. They had an opportunity, and letting it slip away, I think, is doing that term a disservice. They 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 made it significantly harder for themselves to win the game. I feel like by doing that, and they lost. So hopefully you don't make that same mistake again. So
That's
we got that. That's pretty bad. One final topic before we sign off. Albert Pujols. What a guy. I'll admit to you, the first time I ever heard his last name, I thought it was Pujols, which made me laugh. But Albert Pujols, one of the right?
I'm not gonna be able to unhear it now. I never thought about it, but now I will every time anybody says his name.
Albert Pujols. If you're listening, Albert, we love you. You're a great player, an all-time great. Played a decade for the St. Louis Cardinals and then signed with the LA Angels in 2012 and has been there ever since. Maybe the greatest baseball player of his generation. First ballot Hall of Famer. I mean, baseball has a weird Hall of Fame system, so who knows? But I think he should be first ballot Hall of Fame. Let me just quickly list off of some of his accomplishments real quick. He's a member of the 600 home run club, 3,000 hits, 2,000 RBI, 3-time MVP, 2-time World Series champion. His WAR, which is wins above replacement, is over 100, and so he's in that exclusive club. Why are we talking about Albert Pujols? Well, his wife posted on social media that her husband Albert Pujols, this will be his last season. After this will be the 2021 season. This will be his 21st season in the big leagues. And I mean, one of the first players I ever thought of when I thought of the sport of baseball was Albert Pujols. And this being his last season, I know there was some speculation that wasn't actually going to be the case, but it does look like it'll be his last season, and what a career that will be.
Yeah, as someone who's not, I like baseball, but I don't follow it very, very closely. Albert Pujols is one of those guys that, no matter what your level of baseball fandom is, he pops into your head. He's one of the best players of all time.
He put fear into major league pitchers. Like, he was somebody who was feared. He was feared on video games. I remember playing MLB The Show, and I was afraid to pitch to him. Like, this dude was out of this world. Literally, recently there was, something that was going viral is, NASA got a rover on Mars, and there was like images of the surface of Mars, and somebody joked that they could see a ball like laying on the surface, and it was a ball that he hit in like the 2005 NLCS or something like that. He had like a historically massive home run.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah,
I remember losing as a Detroit Tigers fan. I remember losing a couple of World Series to the St. Louis Cardinals. So
in 2006, right? Or they won. He won. I think it was 2006 and 2011. Those were the years he won the World Series with the Cardinals. He won the World Series with the Cardinals, and then he left, which is so baseball. And obviously, he wasn't the player with the Angels that he was with the Cardinals, but still a pretty good damn player. I mean, he hit a lot of home runs. He's not a big average guy anymore. I mean, that's just happens when you're in your 20th season or 21st season. But I mean, look, he again, 2-time World Series champion. He won NLCS MVP in 2004, 2005, 2008, 2009. Those were the years he won NL MVP. He obviously won NL Rookie of the Year back in 2001. He a Silver Slugger 6 times and a Gold Glover twice. I mean, if that's not a Hall of Fame resume, I don't know what is.
Yeah, that's. What were you? You were saying something about how the Hall of Fame for baseball works in a weird way. Why did you say that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know it. I don't know it particularly well. I just know that you have to have like a certain percentage of the votes. I think like 75, if I'm not mistaken. You have to have like 75% of the votes to make it, which I understand. Like baseball has been around longer, so you have to have like strict standards of who's really Hall of Fame worthy. But yeah, it's really hard to get it's really hard to get into the Baseball Hall of Fame. I know that. I mean, it's hard to get into any Hall of Fame, obviously, but
Yeah.
I mean, he will definitely be there. I think the moment he's eligible.
Makes sense.
So an all-time great there, Albert Pujols, his 21st season in baseball, which is just absurd. A farewell tour will definitely be happening, and I'm excited to see that happen.
Yeah, I literally can't imagine baseball without Albert Pujols. Like, without him playing. I'm only 25. He's been playing for 21 years. Like,
that's I've never experienced baseball without Albert Pujols in there as well. Yeah, I'm 22, and so to see that see him not there anymore is that's something else. So we will say goodbye to an all-time great this coming season, as we will say goodbye to our listeners today. And a big thank you once again to TellABQ. Go check them out. Go give them a listen, and we appreciate them. Remember, please follow Tonique on YouTube. We got a lot of fun digital stuff coming up on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and connect with us on LinkedIn. And of course, don't forget to check us out at www.latonique.news. A loaded sports schedule, Robbie, and hopefully a loaded one to come before we sign off.
Yeah, I'm gonna do a little bit more studying on my balls when we leave.
You gotta know them. You gotta know them. And that, of course, does it for Know Your Balls. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next time.